welcome to the special edition of Engaging the Dragon. I'm Shereen, Bhan, and we're coming to you from the China-Europe International Business School in Shanghai. And today we're going to be talking about whether India really enjoys the IPR advantage over China. Joining me for this discussion, Vishal, Sikka, the CEO of Infosys, also with us here, Chang, the Honorary Chairman of the Quality Brands Protection Committee, and with us Professor Georgie, Professor of Strategy and Co-Director, the Center on China Innovations. Appreciate you joining us here, gentlemen. Vishal, Sikka, let me start by asking you, before I talk about innovation and IPR, the perception is, or at least this is one of the demands that the Indian IT sector has put on the table for both governments to address, is an issue of market access, that Indian IT is denied market access, especially when it comes to contracts from state-owned enterprises, that the odds are stacked against them when it comes to the eligibility criteria and eligibility norms. Do you believe that this is entirely accurate?
No, I don't think so. I think that my personal sense, Shereen, is that to a large degree it is a matter of capabilities and having the ability to serve the unique and somewhat extreme needs of the large Chinese companies. Just to a certain degree, there are the matters of law and regulation and so forth that those can be fixed. But I think to a large degree, when we get to the point where we are able to serve the needs and demonstrate the successes, and we are starting to do that at Infosys. If I can speak from my personal experience, we're starting to serve some of the needs of some of the larger SOEs here in China. I think that there is a tremendous opportunity. So I don't subscribe. So
more a capability and a competence issue. Absolutely. As opposed to a regulatory
Absolutely.
issue.
I mean, so for example, there are unique needs and demands of the way that the Chinese businesses operate, the scale that they operate at, the language issues and things of this nature, which are inherent to the ability to serve the needs of these companies.
And you believe that MNC IT companies are better adept at being able to address these issues?
We have seen evidence of other companies from other parts of the world doing a good job and succeeding in China to a greater degree than the Indian IT services companies have, and I think that therefore one can see that it is possible to be successful here. So there isn't any per se an inherent thing. There are certain things that can help make things easier, and they're sort of part of the cost of doing business and so forth.
Sure.
And some things beyond that, the Prime Minister was very keen on demonstrating that these things are going to be helped and so forth.
Sure.
But I think that we should also focus on capability building and competency building at the same time.
My question to you, as far as your China operations are concerned, currently Infosys' business in China at about 120 million. You aspire to take it to $1 billion in the next 5 years. What will it take to get to that point?
I think that the ability to serve some of the larger SOEs and building the local capabilities, both in terms of features, the competence and so forth, but also the scale and so on. We do operate at a large scale today. We have about 4,000 people here. I mean, for example, on the renew side, as I have articulated, there is the renew and there is the new. On the renew side, many of the SOEs want to move to the cloud. They want to take advantage of mobilization of their existing infrastructure and things like that. And there is a massive IT investment that has gone in over the decades in the state-owned enterprises. So there is a tremendous opportunity there. I think getting a few successful projects like that under the belt would demonstrate to them that these guys have the ability to do it. And that would definitely go a long way.
Right. Mr. Chang, let me ask you this, because the perception has been that China is all about low-cost manufacturing. The focus is not so much on quality, that China is not really about IPR. China is an IPR violator. That India has been accused of that as well. But what has the government been able to do, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, in order to be able to correct that perception? And what do you anticipate as being the policy prescriptions for the future as well?
Yes. Before I became the permanent honorary chair for the Quality Brands Protection Committee, I actually worked for Johnson & Johnson for 17 years and General Electric for 8+ years. When the foreign company started talking about the China IP issues 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there was only a single one issue, that's counterfeiting trademark. However, because China enjoys the reputation being the world's factory, the good people coming here to outsource product manufacturing, but the bad trader do that as well. So they pick up all the samples from every market, targeting the well-known brands, looking for OEM manufacturer of the goods and ship it out. So in the past, the Chinese government had a headache how to fight counterfeiting cross-border trade. The Chinese police prosecutor, they did outstanding job. So for the past 5 years, we have seen that this issue gradually getting better. However, we do have members reporting now because increasing domestic consumption. Our members have found that the counterfeiting goods actually start penetrating the 5th, 6th-tier cities, counties. The Chinese government in 2006, the State Council released a long-term, medium-term science technology development outline, which is the blueprint to turn China into an innovation-oriented country.
Right.
And there's a lots of corresponding policy, judicial interpretation have been issued. So I think that the Chinese government now, they are paying attention not only to protect trademark, copyrights, but also technology-related, such as patent trade secret. The foreign companies, they used to have serious concern about trade secrets Act. Now, it's not just foreign IP owner, domestic as well. So the Chinese government is now working on the research on how to improve the trade secret protection legal framework. And for India, it's an amazing country. It's a young country with thousands of years history. I've been to Bangalore and Mumbai, New Delhi many times when I worked for J&J and GE. And I was amazed that this young country, the people has the language skill connecting to the Western world. It has the value that the Western world appreciate. Democracy, the independent judicial system. And the Indian industry, they did not face the same issue that the Chinese industry as OEM manufacturer of counterfeiting goods. The creative industry and software in India is so strong. But China started building up the economy based on manufacturing. So when more and more business people realizing that India can also manufacture goods for them, so good people are going to be there. But as what happened to China, bad people may also go to India.
Absolutely.
So how China fight counterfeiting cross-border trade, this experience, actually the law enforcement needs to engage with India as well.
Okay, so both sides can collaborate on that issue, but let me come to you, Professor Yip, and ask you about the strides that China is making, as Jack Chang was pointing out, in terms of building on the innovation quotient, and what is the government doing to encourage innovation, to encourage R&D spending, because clearly the focus now seems to have shifted from just being a manufacturer of goods to actually being a patent holder as well.
Actually, China, you can say that China is moving from imitation to innovation. Actually, my center here at CIBS has been researching not what the government does, but what companies, both Chinese and foreign companies, have been doing in terms of R&D-based innovation. And the results are really very interesting. That clearly, Chinese companies are moving up in terms of having innovation as a source of competitive advantage. And of course, the government has declared that as an intention, the next 5-year plan.
How much would you say the R&D spends have gone up in the last 5 years?
I don't know the statistics on that, but it's huge. I'm much more interested in the end result.
Sure.
So that Chinese companies are really producing products that are based on innovation. And what's interesting is that Chinese companies are innovating in a different way from Western companies. So instead of trying to come up with a few brilliant products like the iPhone, China is using its advantage of large numbers of lower-cost engineers and scientists. So it puts large numbers of people to work, and it does innovation in a very fast way, repetitive way. So small incremental innovations, but doing it very fast again and again, failing fast. So it is definitely a different approach. And while it has not yet come up, with the brilliant innovations that the West have, it is coming up with new products that are innovative enough to be very profitable and to build market share, not just in China, but in the rest of the world. And this, of course, is the path that other countries followed, not just Korea and Japan, but even Germany took this path as well. So I'm pretty confident about what Chinese companies are going to do. And the one I want to say is that Western companies are also doing innovation in China.
Yes.
Initially, they were doing it just for China, but more and more they're now doing innovation in China for the world.
That's right.
For example, Microsoft is a classic example of that, and Philips is doing that, and IBM also.
In fact, I had a conversation with the CEO of Honeywell, who sits out of China, and they've got a policy called East for East, so they are actually innovating in China and India for this entire region, and that's what you were talking about. But Vishal, I know that innovation is something that you're passionate about, and innovation is something that you hope to sort of build on as you take Infosys to its next sort of 5-year story. From an India standpoint, and we've talked about how we continue to be on the IPR watch list as far as the US is concerned, and so on and so forth. But what can be done to nurture much more innovation, both at a corporate level? Of course, companies individually would do that, but from a government standpoint, what is it that India can do? IPR courts is something that China, for instance, has put in place. What can we do to foster innovation in India?
I think that there is a sense of creative confidence, which is I think the first and the basic ingredient that we need in India. I have seen that in my own experience at Infosys the last 9.5 months or so, and beyond that, I think the government can help, but in the end, the calling to innovate, and to innovate for more than one company, has to come from within. It has to come from the culture of the companies. It has to come from the mindset of the employees, and that is something that we need to I mean, when I look at services companies, for example, like my own, to a large degree, we are committed to MSAs, Master Services Agreements, which essentially historically we have done time and materials work, which hand over the IP to the clients, which is, perhaps that was okay when we started, but and at Infosys, we did a lot of work on what used to be PPS and now became Edgeworth, and other areas to break out of that. And one of the things that I am looking to do is to do that, break out of at a massive scale, so that we can become distinguished providers of IP, and we are starting to do more and more of that. It requires building a confidence inside the teams that it is okay to innovate, and it requires having a confidence in our client engagement process to share with the clients that this is an innovation that we are going to share with others, and there can be early advantages of early movers and early adopters and so forth. So an entirely new set of motions, a new set of muscle memories is necessary, and the government can certainly help by opening up the pathways, by opening up the regulatory aspects of it, and being reciprocal about it. That is another thing that is extremely important. Innovation goes both ways. We have to be able to accept other people's innovations and protect those, just as we would want ours to be protected and accepted. So I think that having that respect for other innovation is equally important.